I'm going to show you how to create additive texture today. So that means you're taking clay and adding it onto your tile to create texture. If you didn't finish yesterday, you can still use rollers or stamps to also practice some subtractive texture. I want to make sure you know how to do that. But today we're really focusing on additive texture. So I've already cut my slab into a square. I've just kept all my scraps so that I can use them to make my texture pieces. So I think a really good way to start creating texture is just taking little chunks of clay, rolling them between your hands to make like a sphere. And then you can either just leave it as a sphere or kind of pinch it to make it more into like a cube shape. And I would just make a bunch of these. You basically want to make a repeated shape over and over and over again. So I've done that with a sphere here. I can make a bunch of cubes. Could also just take one end of it and kind of roll it to make sort of those little points or miniature horns that we saw there. And I think putting a bunch of these together makes a really interesting texture. To me, it reminds me of sort of like coral or sea life sort of texture. So if I was going to attach these, I would score a little bit, add a little bit of slip, which I don't have, but pretend like I have it. And then I would just start adding them in a little group. So scoring the base of those, pressing them down into the clay. And then I'm kind of focusing on like, I'm not trying to make something. So I don't want them to look like a flower. I just want it to be sort of more of an abstract shape right now where I'm really focused more on the texture. Squishing them together a little bit helps too. It'll help them hold on to each other, and also you can kind of add to that texture look. One more little square guy I'll put in here. This feels unbalanced right now. It feels like it's kind of missing something there, so I'm going to add one more in there. And as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about kind of creating balance and unity. This is looking a little bit too flower-like for me. I don't really love that, so I might kind of move a couple of these around since it's not really a look that I'm going for right now. Okay, that's better. Now I can add some subtractive texture to these. So I could take like a needle tool or something like that and start kind of adding some interesting texture to the tops of these. And maybe some of them I would just add a little bit. Some of them might only have like one dot in them. Might even do like some lines on one of them and see what happens. I'm really kind of playing here and just kind of figuring out, what do I like? What do I not like? How can I make this more interesting? Have a little bit of variety in that. So I could add these little guys to it too, or do another section where I added these. I think it's creating some nice texture here. Cool. Another thing I can do is roll a sphere and flatten it. And I can just leave it flat like this. I could place it down and kind of stack them to get some kind of interesting texture. Kind of like the way this is making texture. I could, again, kind of flatten it and use some sort of like the end of a needle tool like this to kind of give it some texture there. You know, and think about where I'd add that. Could could roll them and kind of smoosh them a little bit more. Getting some like different kind of texture up in here. I don't know, I'm just kind of playing and exploring and seeing what works and what I like. I'm not a huge fan of that one. Maybe I wouldn't keep it, but kind of playing with that. You know, I could go through this then and I could add some texture to these guys too. See if I like that. And just kind of playing with that piece. One other thing that you are going to do is you're going to work on carving. And when you carve, you're going to use some different tools. So these are new tools to us. This is a small loop tool. Usually has a loop on either end, but this one's broken. And we just want to be really careful with those to try not to break off the other end. This is a larger loop tool. It has different shapes you can use. And then this is a cleanup tool. It has a curved end and an end that's more like a spear. And I'm just going to draw a shape, like for now, just to make this really easy. I'm just going to do like a kind of crescent shape. And my goal is to be able to carve out a shape. So like my salmon here that I did, you can kind of see that it's like a different layer here. This, the background is actually carved away and the salmon popped out. So I drew the salmon on, outlined it, and then carved away all of the background and then put texture on it. So I'm carving away the background and the shape is your positive space and it'll stay. The background is like your negative space. So I've drawn this crescent moon. I would start with like a loop tool and kind of trace right along the edge of it with that small loop tool, or with my cleanup tool, just kind of trace right along the edge to get like a really nice, the cleanup tool makes a really nice clean line without any of those little crumbs. So you can tell using the loop tool, I got a little bit more crumbs here. The cleanup tool makes it like really nice and clean and smooth. And the way that it does that is it pulls the clay into the little scoop and then you kind of pull it off. So you end up getting a little bit more crumbs here. You can also take the cleanup tool and kind of carefully touch up and pull off some of those crumbs that you get. So once I have like a nice clean line around my shape, then I'm going to take a larger tool, maybe like a loop tool like this, and go in and I would pull away this background clay. And I'm generally trying to keep it like an even height. This clay is really soft right now that I'm using, so it's a little bit hard to do this. It should be a little bit more leather hard. Makes your carving a lot easier. But the idea is that I would keep going around here, and I can kind of go through here and clean up this way too. And my moon is now like popped up and this is down lower. It's about a finger width, like height difference. So I would just keep doing this on this side too, kind of taking away some clay from the edges. I could even kind of pull it out like this to get into small areas. And then taking that bigger loop tool and trying to kind of go in and get larger amounts of clay out. So that my positive space, my object is popped out or is raised, and then my background is lower.